What you're about to see may disturb you. Some of you may absolutely hate what you're about to hear and see. Some of you may absolutely love it. But almost everyone is just going to wonder why is this happening? So let's go. All right, I am going to cut it off there because it goes on for 19 minutes. It is one of the most unbelievable guitar performances I've ever seen. And we have the performer with us, Cyrus Pireh, all the way from Detroit. Thank you so much for joining.
Anthony, thank you so much for your kind words. It's my pleasure to be with you.
I'm not joking. I've watched that video 8 times. I mean, I am absolutely astounded by what you did in that video. The technique, the ability to sit there for 20 minutes doing this. And then I looked online. There's a version of you playing it outdoors for an hour and 9 minutes.
Yeah.
What is happening and how does somebody do this? Just tell us about this.
um, I guess I can just sort of dive into the middle and we can like sharpen the picture as needed. I mean, basically this sort of like twitching motion in the arm was something that I kind of always had. Like when I was in bands in high school, we would have, during practice, in between songs, we'd be like, ooh, who can play this riff, fast? And um, I would be able to do that, to sort of, um, you know, what's going on is I'm like tensing. The bicep is completely tensed, and then the motion is a twitching that's happening here in the forearm. Um, so, I mean, this was something that just kind of existed in the toolkit. Around 2011, I started to shift away from. I was working in composition more generally, and I started to shift away from that, and I just kind of decided, okay, like I love the guitar. I think that the guitar could be, for me the best way to compose, to present my compositions, to work, work with other people. So I started focusing my composition practice on the electric guitar, and it was one of the things that I remembered, and I thought, okay, well, is this something that I could incorporate into a piece? So, I spent that performance that you played here at the top, that was in 2015. The other performance that you referenced, where I played for an hour, that was in 2013. And I began the process in 2011. So, spending considerable amount of time slowly building up the stamina. I would practice, just holding that tremolo on an open string or open pairs of strings as I was playing on, an instrument with double courses for 30 minutes. That's how I would start. And, at first it's a little rough, but a thing happens, and this is what ultimately made me so interested and excited in the piece in general, and this is maybe something that you yourself or other folks who participate in exercise might identify with. You sort of enter like a flow state. Yeah, there's a lot of focus and energy that's involved in kind of getting it started, but after things are moving, the body just kind of takes over. And so, especially in the hour performance, there's definitely like tens of minutes where I'm just like floating around. And I mean, it does something to you, this kind of bodily exertion. And I've always been interested in pursuing that, through music. So, I mean, tell me if we're headed in the right direction here, or we can change course if you have those follow-up questions.
For me, honestly, it's just the intensity of all of it. Musically, what is going on, and the technique, and watching you in this deep meditative state. As a guitar player, I've explored some of that. I don't know if you've seen, I have a whole video series about playing this song called Fracture by King Crimson. Yes. Okay, so to do what you're doing is so exploitative of like your own arms and to do it for so long. And it's just like, I love the title. If I play fast enough, it will turn into Food and Shelter. I think this is kind of the mentality of many musicians. And so I like you just embody this whole ideology in this piece of music. And I look at you yourself, your videos, the way you present yourself, you're the only person I've ever seen on a Zoom call with a telephone receiver, all of these things. And the fact that you are laughing, like before we hit record, you were laughing about some of this music and your performance stuff. I love everything about it. And your videos on your channel almost every day, it's just you practicing. And it's not like it's the same often. You'll start with the same piece and you'll play through a set, but it's never the same. And I just love it all. And I hope other people love it too.
Thank you so much. Like it's been really amazing to have this opportunity to meet you and to meet other folks and get a chance to talk about guitar. I mean, it's my life's work. I am serious about it, but I'm like we were talking about earlier. You know, for me, it's important that it be fun. Um,
Well, no
so
one can
I,
do this. No one can do what you do without being truly serious in some respect, you know, like, and I don't mean like serious, like John Cleese kind of makes fun of people who are gravely serious. Like these are serious people.
sure.
But to take your craft so seriously and to take your entire presentation, you know, you're just mindful, even with your instruments. Like, could you talk through the instruments that you use? I've seen you play this interesting, you know, Squire guitar, and then there's this one with a really tiny neck. You know, I'd love to see what are these things that you're playing with.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, the one that I play probably the most is this is a 9-string Esquire. I can bring it closer here. Um, I only, you know, when I started playing guitar, I only used 5 strings. I mean, this is also part of, you know, I was very lucky to be part of a group of friends who were very supportive and also very, very exploration-minded. Um, I was breaking the high E string all the time, and my friend said, well, just don't even use it. Keith Richards only uses 5 strings. That's fine. I mean, we didn't know that Keith took off the low E string, and he uses the high E string. But something about that stuck for me. There's just something about the top three strings in that particular arrangement. Um, you know, having these 3 strings here, um, the way that they're. I mean, well, this instrument is tuned down into baritone range. So let me mention that initially. So the strings are B, E, A, D, F sharp, as opposed to on like a standard guitar, I would have them tuned, you know, E, A, D, G, B.
Mm.
Um, it's probably easier to just talk in those terms. That's usually how I think about it anyway. But those top 3 strings, the D, G, B, that particular chord is a second inversion major triad, and that's one of my favorite chords, kind of in general. And so I just stuck with it. I don't know. You know, once you start doing something for a while, you
But
kind of get into it. And
why the double courses? I'm sorry to interrupt.
oh,
Why did you set up the, you know, double string courses?
well, found myself at Subway Guitars in Berkeley, California, in 2003, and I was looking for something, and I happened upon Kawhi Kingston that had been you know, fitted with a 12-string neck. So I got that. You know, Fat Dog is a personal hero of mine. Someone, you know, you read about these people early on in your life, and they just sort of stick with you. So the opportunity to go, I don't know if you've ever been there. It's worth the trip. Um, but yeah, so I got this 12-string guitar. I started playing it and immediately took off the 2 high E strings to have it conform to my 5-string lifestyle. And then I noticed that on the low E string, that octave pair, um, if I took off the high string of that octave pair, just used a single low E string, it felt like it was much better bass presentation, sort of rounding out the chord. You know, you can never get the strings perfectly in tune on a 12 string, so there was always some fighting there at the low frequencies. So just with that single low string, I think things were a lot clearer. And then, you know, the reason why I ended up getting into it so deeply was because it's a lot easier to shred. I mean, this is like kind of going to be counterintuitive, but it's a lot easier to shred a double chorused instrument than single strings. I mean, this is something that I looked at from like Russian balalaika music. I don't know if you know that music at all. The Russian balalaika is like it's similar to mandolin, but the way that it's played is basically just tremolo picked like all the time. So there's that. I also looked at the tar from Persian classical music. And this is also an instrument that uses double courses and that people shred on with tremolo picking. Um, so, I mean, for me, since I headed into that direction, particularly with that PC player at the top, I spent a lot of time. This instrument I got in 2013. This is basically like the original instrument was from the 60s, and it looks all weird, but this is one that was like purpose-built to just be, you can get the headstock here for you in frame, purpose-built to just be 9 strings. Um, so, it looks like it's like this on purpose, as opposed to something that has all these holes and, extra tuners
Right.
sitting around for no reason in it.
Okay, so I want to show. I don't think I can show it to you through Zoom, but there's a picture of Robert Fripp.
Oh, this is a funny story. So I found myself performing at the High Noon Saloon in Madison, Wisconsin. And it was either 2015, 2016, right around that time period, with a trio that I was in. And I mean, the pill bottle, this is the amplifier that I use pretty much for everything. I designed this, I came up with it after a long period of trial and error, and that's basically what I use all the time. So for that particular gig, I plugged the amplifier, this pill bottle amplifier, directly into to a DI box, and then it ran through the sound system. When the performance was done, the sound person came up to me and was like, "What is that?" Similar question that you just had, and I explained, "Well, this is an amplifier that I use," and they were like, "Well, do you have more of them?" Like, "Yes, I have them for sale at the merch table." So the sound person bought one. It turns out that's not an uncommon occurrence, which is kind of an amazing validation, to be honest, when the sound person is buying your merch. And then, they were telling me, I'm really excited to show this to Robert. Do you know Robert Fripp? And I'm like, yes, I know Robert Fripp. And so he tells me that he's the guitar tech for Robert Fripp and is about to go on one of the King Crimson tours in Europe with him.
It must have
And
been
I'm
Biff,
thinking,
right?
Pardon?
It must have been Biff.
Yes, indeed. Do you know
Okay.
Biff?
I don't know him personally, no.
Yes, it was absolutely Biff. And at that moment, I thought, I don't know if this guy's pulling my leg or what, but I said to him, well, I mean, if you're going to go see Robert, please, here, take a second one, and I'd be happy to offer it to him as a gift. And then a couple of weeks later, I got the photo that you mentioned, and Biff said in the email, and didn't hate it. And to me, I mean, what? That's like the best. That was, period. Just the best. I was, over the moon. What an amazing. I had no idea when Biff was telling me this story that this was going to actually happen. But I mean, that's how it went down.
Incredible. Okay, so let's go to another piece of music. This one is called. Actually, I don't know what this one is. I think it's called Beating Wings of the Hawk Pinned to the Grill of an I-80 Semi.
Yes.
And this performance in particular involves you performing with a spoon. And it is just unbelievable. There's the spoon. Wow, the spoon. All right, let's take a look at this this performance. I'll start halfway through so we can get a couple of minutes of it. Okay. Absolutely. Just another of these stunning performances. I can't tell. Well, no, I can tell, but sometimes I look at your videos and they seem sped up because you're doing so much so quickly. Uh, and this spoon video was one of those where I was like, wait, is this? I had to check my YouTube speed, and I'm looking at the rest of the footage. The cars are moving in the like, what's going on, man?
Well, I mean, that's part of the reason in my practice videos why I use the timer to sort of show, like, to show the time. I'm not messing with the time at all. I mean, not that someone would think I was necessarily, but that's part of the reason why I use it. Um, yeah, well, I mean, that piece it's basically, it's kind of like the inverse of the other piece that you had played for us. That if I can play fast enough, it'll turn into food and shelter. It's the same basic technique, same kind of, twitch, arm motion, but instead of striking the strings, I'm interrupting the signal from the guitar. So
So
I don't know if you
you're
pardon,
are you saying you're using the spoon to mute the string and strike the string, or is it an electronic like kill switch effect?
the spoon doesn't come into contact with the strings at all.
Ah,
So, I mean, it works on any instrument, but I set this one up this way. I mean, there are a couple of caveats. I set this instrument up to be able to do this very, very effectively. So there is a pickup under the pickguard, and I only utilize it. I only utilize it for this technique. So it doesn't pick up. It's really far away from the strings under the pickguard. It doesn't pick up the vibrations of the strings as strongly as the pickup that's down here by the bridge. But the spoon is made of steel, just like guitar strings are. So when I move the spoon like this, I'm just sliding it along the pickguard. It's like a piece of a string moving in the field
so
of the pickup.
you're electromagnetically interfering the signal because the steel spoon basically blocks anything that the pickup would receive from the vibrating metal string.
Well, I mean, I don't know this, the physics, it's possible for us to get into that. Like, my sort of feeling about the phenomenon as it's happening is that since the spoon is so much more massive than the strings, its signal takes precedence. The
Ah,
fact that the signal is lower than the audible range, so we don't hear it as a tone, but it's there. And so, I mean, this is where I'm coming from. You know what I'm saying?
I love it.
The concept, it's very related to the concept of a low frequency oscillator. I don't know
Uh
if
huh.
you
Uh
get
huh.
into synthesizers at all, but
Yep.
that's kind of where it's coming from. And, the other piece of this puzzle is that most amplifiers are set up in such a way to filter out all of that low frequency noise. But an amplifier that you build yourself, you can let all of that
Right.
goodness through.
Right.
And then, in some moments in that particular performance and in other performances, I'm able to move the spoon fast enough to create kind of a very low tone, maybe in that 20 or 30 hertz range. Um, that's always a very fun moment for me, especially if there's subwoofers in the sound system.
It's really unbelievable. Um, I love the way that you're approaching it there. Uh, it it's an unusual sound because you're not striking the strings, but something is happening. There is an audible effect to it, and through YouTube, I can't quite hear the low frequencies, but the rest of it, obviously, you can hear, and it's kind of this like very, I don't know, sort of organic and uncomfortable sort of sound that happens, and it's not quite a striking sound, but it's somewhat percussive. Well, obviously, it's just indescribably your own thing.
I mean, there are some examples of like very harsh tremolos, like the Vox percussion effect. I think is something that maybe is in the same ballpark.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that I'm actuating, that I'm moving the spoon that's creating that tremolo effect, it can be very dynamic. It can get
Mm-hmm.
slow, it can get fast. Um, that particular performance I think was from like 2019. I performed it more recently last year in 2023, and there are sections where I slow the tremolo down a lot, and
Mm.
things can get pretty trippy. And the fact that it's when the motion is removing sound can also sort of generate that kind of. I mean, in me as the player as well, it's like it becomes difficult in some moments to kind of know what's going on.
Yeah. So what is the 10-string tiny guitar, Strat body thing over
Oh
there?
yes. I do you want me to just go grab it? Is that
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
Okay. Hold on one second, everybody. Okie dokie. So the thought process behind this instrument, I found myself in a situation where I was traveling a lot to perform, and traveling with an instrument is very difficult. Very difficult. It's not the most fun. Um, so I have a really good friend who's an excellent luthier, and I asked them, "Can you build me a neck that basically starts, at the octave?" So I've been playing, and maybe you have seen me do this. Like I put like a capo on this guitar. It's on the 11th fret, and I play pieces just using this part of the neck.
Yeah, I think that
So
piece is it's called That Guitar or something like that.
thank you, guitar.
Thank You Guitar, that's right. And it's really a beautiful piece.
Thank you. So yeah, so I said, can you make me a neck that's basically just that part of the neck? And this is what he came up with. Um, trying to get you
Oh,
good.
yeah, I can see it pretty well.
Okay, perfect.
I just
The
wish I
body, I
could
mean, the body
hear.
is my first guitar, which was a
Ah,
PV Predator.
I wish I could hear it, but I don't think it'll come through on the phone.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
there are some examples out there,
yeah, yeah,
but
for sure, for
it
sure.
basically sounds like I mean, just as if you've heard the Thank You guitar piece, this basically sounds the same as that. Um, it's, uh, what else to say about it? In this particular moment, it's not in the best of condition. It definitely needs some attention. But both guitars, this one and the Esquire 9-string, they're attached with machine screws into threaded inserts in the neck.
Mm.
So I would just take the neck off and the whole thing fits in a backpack.
Oh, that's great.
When I played Japan, I took this to Japan. Argentina, I took this to Argentina. It's great. It's like, I can do a large part of my repertoire on this instrument, and then everything is a lot more chill in the traveling situation, which is, being able to be more chill when you're traveling is worth its weight in gold.
So I'm curious about, and we do need to wrap up, but I'm curious about this. I feel like you have an intentional misuse of fidelity. Like you don't want super high fidelity. Nothing I've seen from you is pristine or, and I don't mean this in an insulting way. It just seems like in today's age where, the cell phone picks up just every little detail in absolute quality, and everything that we record through, it's like all the detail. You are going, I feel, in the opposite direction, from the phone that you're using to the amplifier that you're using. It is absolutely not about crystal clarity. It's about something else. Can you talk about this?
Sure. I mean, the amplifier, the reason why I designed it in that particular way was I was seeking the highest amount of gain possible that I could get kind of in a small package. So the gain factor of those amplifiers, I believe it's a gain factor of 200. And then, the interest in that is, I moved into fingerstyle playing, and This is a way that I felt that I was able to bring out, all of these sort of, really small gestures. Um, if you have a wide open amplifier, um, it'll definitely pick up and present a lot of small gestures, that might not have otherwise been present. My own particular background, music that I loved was always punk rock, music that has a lot of high energy. Um, Guitar distortion is a love of mine. Um, you know, I've never been someone who has been very excited by guitar plugged into a clean Fender amp. Um, the recordings themselves, you've played a few live recordings. The studio recording, Radio K, that one in particular, they had set up there was a Royer ribbon microphone on the amplifier, and then was the stereo Neumann pair in the room. The sort of place I always end up in these discussions is like the fidelity, like that is the sound. The fidelity. It is true to what you're hearing is true to what's happening. But we as guitarists, we have access to such a wide array of tones. This was one that resonated for me, and one that I was excited to continue pursuing. There's other contexts where things can be quite sedate. I know we were talking off air about some of my interest in playing classical pieces or subsets of classical pieces, and things can clean up in those moments as well.
Excellent. All right, so let's close with the piece that I feel you play most often. It's called "What Are We Doing Here? What Could Be Done?" Or at least I've seen you perform this most because it often kicks off your videos.
Sure. Well, like I mentioned, I shifted from playing with a pick exclusively into hybrid style picking, where I was still holding a pick and using some fingers, into total finger style. And I was in this moment of like, well, okay, what am I going to do with my thumb? So I had already been playing, you mentioned a piece, Thank You Guitar, where I was playing sort of upstrokes with my middle finger. And I thought, why not try for a 12/8 context? 12/8, would give me an access to a lot of different time fields. Time fields of 4, 3, 6, 2. You can get so many divisions out of 12. And so that is what I would do what I do in this piece with my thumb. My thumb is strumming 12s, and I'm punctuating, I think it ends up being on 4 and 10 to kind of give the backbeat with my index finger. The thumb, I got very nerdy with the sort of the thumb shaping itself. I don't know if it kind of comes through here. There's I use a notch in my thumbnail to give me different sections to play.
There is a good video on your channel where you instruct people on how you're using your right hand.
And the index fingernail that I'm using, I'm trying to get 2 attacks. Classical style, you only get 1 attack, either the upstroke or the downstroke. So I'm getting 2 attacks from the thumb and 2 attacks from the index finger in these videos. And then it was just about building a piece that used that technique, and I felt presented it in an interesting way. I play it every day to continue being able to play it. It's one of those pieces where if I don't get my hands on it every day, I start to lose the feel. I'm very glad that you enjoy it, Anthony, and everyone's comments have been so positive, which is always so nice. I don't know. Is there anything else that you want to know about?
I don't think so. We do have, your music is on Bandcamp. Where can people find you and find out more about you?
Excellent question. I have a website at 4gre.org. It's the number 4, G as in golf, R as in Romeo, E as in echo, .org. That's plenty, more than enough stuff there.
Yes, there's a lot of good stuff on there. Okay, great. Let's close with what are we doing? What could be done? Here we go.